Her music is legendary. Her accomplishments are epic. In an outspoken interview, one of the grand ladies of gospel recalls both the joys and the struggles of her 5-decade career that forever changed American music. This is Pastor Shirley. There are a few careers that can match that of Shirley Caesar's. She's been called the mother of gospel, the queen of gospel, and the first lady of gospel. But when she was born in Durham, North Carolina on October 13th, 1938, she was simply Shirley Ann, the 11th of 13 children born to Hallie and Big Jim Caesar, loving parents whose lives were centered around their church. And for Shirley, her journey would be forever defined by her childhood roots.
We went to church like almost every day, every night. Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night. Every now and then we'd get a break like on Monday night, depending on as whether or not we had a revival or not. But the rest of the week we were in church.
When Shirley turned 12, tragedy struck the Caesar family. Her father unexpectedly passed away. Hallie Caesar was faced with a huge financial strain, and Shirley desperately wanted to help her semi-invalid mother. Singing in church became her answer.
I just really got into singing, really traveling and singing, when I was like 12. And I would go to these different places to sing, and they would raise an offering that I could take home to my mom. I went to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I went there to sing for a man named Leroy Johnson, but I was with my pastor, Bishop Yelverton. And so he went behind the pastor's back and asked me, said, "Do you think that they will bring you back next Sunday to sing?" I said, "Yeah." So I went back that Sunday, and then I found myself going back Sunday after Sunday. And of course, then he began to call me Baby Shirley.
Traveling with Leroy Johnson, her energetic performances made Baby Shirley a crowd favorite. It was also during this time Shirley confronted the ugly face of segregation and Jim Crow laws.
I rode the back of the bus. We could not stay in hotels, of course. I mean, who had money for a hotel back then? We didn't. But you know what? I made it. I lived through all of that. And I told myself, for now, it's a way of life, but this too will pass. I've always felt that nobody's any better than I am, and I'm no better than anybody else. That's why I never saw them as my superior. Never.
Despite the obstacles placed in her path, an optimistic Shirley traveled the gospel circuit for several years. Over time, she outgrew the Baby Shirley persona, and after high school, she enrolled in North Carolina Central College to study business. It was there in 1957 that Shirley Caesar first heard her call to ministry.
I was sitting in my typing class, ASDF, semicolon LKJ, you know. And I heard the voice of the Lord speak to me.
Startled by the power of the voice, Shirley turned to her classmates.
"Did you say something to me?" She said, "No." I said, "Did you say something to me?" She said, "No." And I said, "You sure you didn't say anything?" She said, "No." And I went home, and it was at that time when I was laying down that I heard the Lord speak again. Said to my spirit that I have anointed you and I've ordained you to carry the gospel, to preach the gospel. And let me tell you something. He spoke so loudly in my spirit that I knew that it had to have been the Lord. I told my mama about it. And Mama said, "No, that wasn't the Lord." She said, "Because God don't call women to preach." I was out of school, no money. I didn't know what to do.
When faith and fame continues,
So like I was telling my wife,
I wish I had a wife.
I've got this great show, but no names.
I'm terrible with names, Bill. Whatever.
The show's got artist interviews and industry news.
What news?
Today, Shirley Caesar is known to millions worldwide. But in the early 1950s, her only claim to fame was a brief career as a child prodigy singing as Baby Shirley. By 1958, she was a college dropout, struggling with finances and with few prospects. Feeling in her heart she was called to a ministry of preaching, she hesitated to challenge the teachings of her youth.
We come from the old school of Pentecostalism, and back then, no such thing as women preachers. And even in a lot of areas today, no such thing as a woman preaching.
Shirley put her preaching on hold and concentrated on singing. She was confident that if she could be heard, her talent would be recognized. So when her favorite gospel group, Albertina Walker and the world-famous Caravans, came to North Carolina, Shirley took a bold step at the concert.
When I got there, I wrote my own request. Please call on Shirley Caesar to sing a solo. I wanted her to hear me. And so the mistress of ceremony said, we got a request here for some Shirley Caesar to come up and sing a solo. I said, here I am. And I jumped up and I ran up to the stage. And I started singing, "The Lord Will Make a Way Somehow." While I was singing it, they all came out, lead singers and things from all of these major groups. They eased out to hear me sing. And after I came off the stage, Albertina met me as I was coming off the stage. And I heard her say to somebody, "I want that little girl." And so after the program, she came to me and asked me, could I travel? I said, I don't know, you'll have to ask my mama. They took me to one rehearsal, and on Friday night, they put me on stage. And I've been going ever since.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for.
Shirley moved to Chicago and for the next 8 years traveled with the Caravans. For many fans, it was the golden years for what was already a world-famous group. Shirley idolized Albertina and took every opportunity to learn from her.
Keep you where you're at. Since all for faith, we're looking for faith.
Thank God for Albertina Walker that gave each of us a chance to be heard. We called her the high priestess of gospel.
Shirley's time with the Caravans was a dream come true in many ways. She not only realized her potential in singing, but her long-suppressed call to preaching began to unfold as well.
When I got to Chicago, that's when the Lord began to show up and show out. One night I was riding with some of my friends in Chicago going to a church. And the girl said, why don't you preach tonight? I said, okay. And that's how I started. Well, John declared, the house that we're going to has walls that are made of jasper. It has not been easy because I've had my own peers, I'm talking about pastors and preachers, to deny me the privilege of sitting in their pulpit. But that didn't stop me. You see, when I look and I see the Joyce Myers and I see the Juanita Bynums, that lets me know that today God will use whomever will avail themselves to be used. So I ain't studying.
Shirley also was thrilled to be paired with the brilliant gospel artist James Cleveland during this time. She and the multi-talented Cleveland were billed as the king and queen of gospel.
James Cleveland, as far as I'm concerned, was the Michael Jackson of that day when it comes to gospel.
Shirley was also developing her signature sermonette style of delivery. Preaching up her music just came natural to her.
Singing and preaching goes together like ham and eggs. And I was able to talk up my song or put a tune to it, preach up the song, if you will.
He saved me when I was a sinner. And those of you today that know that God lives, will you join in with me in your living rooms where we are right now and help me to sing, God's not dead, He's alive. You're God Almighty. Can I get a witness?
In 1966, Shirley left the Caravans to launch her solo career. Out on the road on her own, Shirley's education was often a baptism by fire.
God's not dead.
Here I am now, I'm singing and preaching together, but I didn't even have a musician. My first concert was in Columbus, Ohio, and I remember when the promoter gets in the microphone and said, "We need a piano player to come and play for Shirley Caesar." Place jammed and packed. I was so embarrassed.
In Wichita, Kansas, as her trusted sister and close friend, Ann, tried to warn her, Shirley learned another hard lesson.
I'll never forget it. While I'm singing and dancing and carrying on, my sister said, "The promoter is leaving with the money." I didn't pay any attention to her. I just running the deal. I just kept right on. You know, she said, "I think that you need to hurry up and end this," my sister Ann. And sure enough, after the concert was over, he had split. He left me out there with my group. I had no monies to give to them. We had to get back home, and Wichita, Kansas is a long way from North Carolina. And it was but by the grace of God that we were able to get back home. We had to learn that not everybody out there that's promoting gospel really love the Lord. And so I went back to school. The Lord blessed me to go back to college, and I learned business really good, so that when I finally got back, I made sure that they were not going to take advantage of us anymore.
Shirley not only struggled with the uncertainties of the business, she also fought against the times. America in the mid-60s was tearing itself apart, with a civil rights battle erupting into violence and chaos.
I remember riding the same bus like a Greyhound, and we still ended up going to the back, even when we were free to sit up front. We had been so used to going to the back. You understand where I'm coming from? Until we found ourselves doing that. Until one day we said, no more riding the back. And not only that, but God blessed me to own 2 or 3 buses. Amen.
Yes, you did.
Despite the hardships of segregation and unscrupulous promoters, Shirley would not be denied. In 1969, her career reached a new high with the release of an inspiring single, "Don't Drive Your Mama Away."
Don't you drive away. Yes, you did. Oh, God, yes, you did. You're gonna need your answer. I'm saying that don't you drive. You know what?
The success of the single also brought Shirley a new financial independence.
It changed my life. I was able to bless my family members, my siblings. I bought my mother a home, and I didn't let her want for anything.
Don't drive me away. Oh, if you drive, you're gonna need my help someday. Oh.
When the queen of gospel music, Mahalia Jackson, died in 1972, many fans felt her mantle had passed to Shirley Caesar. Shirley's lively and spirit-filled performances were becoming legendary.
I want them to get out there and dance in the aisle with me and praise God with me. And I want them to leave the place rejuvenated, illuminated, and set free in their spirits.
Coming up,
Preacher's been rapping for years.
when faith and fame returns.
Night of Legends on Gospel Music Channel is brought to you by Allstate. It's time to make your world a better place to drive. That's Allstate stand.
The 1970s was a season of unparalleled success for Shirley Caesar. Recognized by her peers with Grammys and Dove Awards, many of her hits had become gospel classics. Then in 1975, she released her biggest song ever, No Charge.
For the time and the tears and the cost through the years, there is no charge. When you add it all up, the real cause of mama's love is no charge. Let me sing to this little boy here.
But No Charge came with a price. For the first time in her life, Shirley felt the sting of criticism about her music.
No charge. Would you believe me if I would tell you that after it had been released, that around 2 a.m. in the morning, because they were playing it, we got a call from St. Louis, and that said to my mom, I think it's a shame that you would let your daughter sing R&B after singing all of this gospel music.
Drugs and crime.
Shirley Caesar never missed a step. While her detractors criticized, she continued to churn out more gospel classics.
So you wanna know whether you change, but turn back to God and forsake your wicked way. Yeah, God is gonna shine. Hallelujah. When you trust in Jesus, you will win. Hallelujah. Yeah. Shine again. Yeah.
In the early 1980s, Shirley's life took a more domestic turn. She returned to Durham to care for her beloved mother, and at the age of 45, a special man came into her life, Bishop Harold Ivory Williams, the senior prelate of North Carolina. They began talking after a revival in Durham.
He asked me to go to breakfast with him the next morning, and of course I did. Why am I telling you all of this? But of course I did. I went to breakfast with him, and 2 weeks later, he said, I'm coming back to Durham. He said, I have to come down for some business, and I'd like to see you again. And 2 weeks after that, he asked me if I would marry him. And I said, yes, but not right away. Bring your eyebrows down, not right away. Months and months later, I became Mrs. Harold Ivory Williams. I'm married to the most wonderful man in the world.
Before long, Shirley and Bishop Williams were co-pastoring a church in Winston-Salem. Shirley's devotion to her church created a busy and hectic schedule, complicated by the demands of touring. However, her life was brought to a standstill in 1986 when her mother, Hallie Caesar, passed away.
Sometimes I find it difficult to even talk about it now, and that was, 20 years ago. But my mom was my greatest inspiration. I took care of my mother from the time that I was 12 years old up until the time that she fell asleep in 1986. And I never regretted it. And I would give anything to just hear her pray again.
In 1987, Pastor Caesar found herself dealing with an outreach ministry concerned with affordable housing and the needs of the poor. With her boundless energy and enthusiasm, she put her faith and her fame on the line.
I ran for city council at large and won. And for 4 years, I sat with my other peers and was able to bring about affordable housing. I was able to help build our civic center and so many other wonderful things, and found out that not only was I a preacher, but that I did really have a voice that I could share with my city.
After a term on the city council, Shirley continued her outreach ministry as a legacy to her mother and looked for new worlds to conquer. She took Broadway by storm with sold-out runs of the Mama I Wanna Sing trilogy.
God blessed me to sing on Broadway. I think I did it for like 4 years straight, and then went on the road with it for a while.
And began appearing in movies and TV sitcoms.
I'm looking forward to doing more sitcoms and more movies. I'd like to do some more of the big screen.
She was the first gospel performer to sing at Harvard, and she also found time to get a master's in divinity degree, graduating magna cum laude from Duke University. In 2005, she released her 41st album and surprised everyone by rapping with hip-hop artist Tone.
Here I am rapping, you know. I said, wow. But you know what? Preacher's been rapping for years and years. I like it. I'm going to do it again. I say to the young people, you know, you look over your shoulder, you're going to see me.
But the release of the 2005 CD on her own label, Shoe Bell Records, was a bittersweet moment for Shirley. It was also the year she lost Anne, her singing partner, friend, and dearly loved sister.
Just that quick, I almost started crying. I can't talk about that. That's a little bit too close.
Shirley Caesar's life has seen its share of valleys and mountaintops. But today, after all the Grammy, Dove, and Stellar Awards, after all the inductions into halls of fame, after all her travels with the powerful and famous of this world, she now takes her rightful place as one of America's greatest treasures. And she's by no means done yet.
I pray that the future holds for me a greater church.
Always mindful of her larger ministry, Shirley Caesar's voice will continue to be heard throughout the world.
Gospel music is so precious. If you're going to sing it, it's worth it to live the life that you sing about. Drive and go forward. I pastor the Mount Calvary Word of Faith Church in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I just want to let them know if they're ever passing through Raleigh, to stop by 3100 Sanderford Road, Raleigh, North Carolina. And my number is 919-683-1161. I'd love to have you to worship with us.